Welcome to TRS Clips, India's fastest learning portal. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit that bell icon.
So this school was being set up, and this is the year 1998, when internet was still, you guys won't even remember the tone of a modem. It used to make that weird, funny sound, and it was 14 kbps was considered to be like high speed. It was those days. And I was still in the army. It was my last couple of months, and I remember Captain Alok Parashar calling me from Pune once and saying that, hey, listen, we got this thing called the internet, and there's something, I don't understand this stuff. So can you just come over and, sort of sit on our side of the table, because we are discussing with a few vendors about, this kind of internet connectivity and all of that stuff. So I kind of knew enough about computers at that time.
You learned it in the army?
Yes, I was working on a few projects which required me to learn a lot about computers and a lot about technology. And that's another advantage, by the way, of working in the government and especially in the forces. You get to work with technology which is
ahead of its time.
I learned my computers in the Military College of Telecommunication Engineering, MCT. It's a short course, but I learned my programming on a mainframe. And mainframe, I don't think even MNCs could afford a mainframe at that point of time. So you do have a lot of exposure. And of course, a lot of it was learned also with my job, because I was in a branch of the army which was the mechanized infantry, and that did have second generation missiles which had some sort of computing power on board. And so you needed to understand the fundamentals of computing. And of course, a large part of learning in life is your personal passion. So I was passionate about computers. So I came to attend this meeting, and this was, I'm seeing this college for the first time. It is still under construction. It's getting built, and there were a few vendors who had come to give their proposals. And essentially they gave a non-feasibility report. They said that, internet connectivity can't be brought over here. And there are reasons for that. The reason is that firstly, it was 40 kilometers away from Pune. And Pune was the nearest city where there was internet to begin with. Secondly, this was on top of a mountain which is in the middle of a reserve forest. So you either had to draw a cable all the way from Pune to this place, a fiber optic cable, or you had to set up relay stations, which is radio-based relay stations. Now, radio-based relay stations could not be set up because the area from Pune to the college, it was interspersed with mountains, and these mountains were reserve forests. So not only would you have to put a tower on each one of them, but you would also have to service the tower, which means you need a track to reach that place to fill up diesel. It was not feasible. And drawing a fiber optic cable all the way from Pune right up to the college was also impractical, because MTNL or whatever, the VSNL, they were not going to lay a cable for a school at the other end. And a school which would, because it's an academic institution, pay 1/4 of the fee anyway. So one customer, they wouldn't do that. So anyway, there's a non-feasibility report was given, and I remember sitting there in that table, and I think I just muttered, and it was a stupid sentence to say, but I kind of said it, that, if connectivity can be provided in the glacier, why can't it be done here? Very silly statement to make, because the stakes are different and all the... But the then headmaster, Dr. David Wilkinson, who set up this college,
Hold on, so I just want to give the listeners some context.
Sure.
You also served on the Siachen Glacier.
Yeah, me and 80% of the Indian Army. So it's
that's the glacier we're speaking of.
Anyway. So it is, yeah. So what I meant was that it can be done in difficult places. So why can't it be done here? Of course, the context is completely different, and that was a silly statement to make. But the headmaster, he caught on to that, and that was the end of the story. I went back to Nagar, and after a couple of weeks, I got another message from Captain Parashar and said that, can you come over to Bombay? There's a meeting in Bombay. So I said, okay, fine. And I came on a Saturday, I remember, and it was in Mahindra Towers. So this is the first time I'm seeing... I still remember, I tell some of my friends even now, that when he was telling me to look for a landmark, he said this All India Radio Tower is the biggest landmark. And I now... sometimes on the ceiling, you can't even see the tower because of the skyscrapers that have come. But that point of time, Mahindra Towers, 6th floor building was called a Mahindra Tower, right? So I went there for this meeting, and Mr. Harish Mahindra, Anand's father, was alive, and it was his personal, he was passionate about this project, and It's a saga of how the project, it wouldn't have got done but for him. And there was this whole team sitting there, and I remember David Wilkinson sort of introducing me to them and saying that he said that he can do it. So I said, I didn't say I can do it. I said it can be done. So he said, would you be willing to take up this? And I said, fine, I'll give it a shot. And that's how I joined the Mahindra College with the very limited objective of setting up the internet connectivity. And honestly, and I think that's a philosophy I've learned and followed throughout my life. And I think that's what the army teaches you. I didn't know how the hell I'm going to do it. I had no idea. And there are the 3 companies which had given a non-feasibility report. And these are 3 technology companies. So I did not know how I was going to do it, but I knew I was going to get it done. Most of the foundations of information security in the big 4, you will find that the DNA comes from Mahindra SSG. That's where they come from. And of course, many of the leaders went. And I think that is something that I was exceptionally proud of, even when I used to do recruitment into Mahindra SSG. I would always find people who are far, far better than me. So when I would be even recruiting from people who were leaving the army, they were like 2 or 3 sword of honors who were like toppers of their batches who had come and joined. And also I was surrounded by incredibly capable people who are far better thinkers, far better, far more competent people. And many of them have gone on to create their own. I remember SM Kumar is one of them. He's now heads several companies and all of that.
Does the army add anything specifically in this domain?
Oh, huge. I think the security is a state of mind. And most hackers, I can tell you this, I've spent almost 4 decades in that life, in that world. I don't think till now a 256-bit encryption has been cracked. So you don't need to go for fight well. What usually happens is a human error. It's always a human error. And human beings can be cracked all the time. Psychologically, human beings are, the psychological or what they call social engineering is a wrong phrase, but it's actually mind hacking. They hack into your mind. They make you do what... It's a bit like if you were to ask some very important person's secretary, where is the boss? She will never tell because she's been trained not to tell. But if you say, when is Anand coming back from China? She'll correct you. But he's not in China, he's in Japan. She'll correct you. She won't give you the answer, but she'll correct you. So if you understand the psychology of criminals, because you have to fight them. Let's say you and I, if we're working in the army together, in 6 months' time, you and I will know everything about each other for the simple reason we are spending 24/7 together, except when you are on leave or I am on leave. The rest of the time we are together. I'm seeing you in the officer's mess. You're going up. I am in your Pulton. You have no way of avoiding me. So you better, if I'm your senior, you better find a way to work with me, whatever it is. In a corporate, you have a set period of time when you are from 9 to 5 you're working, and after that you have another world. What is happening in your world? What is happening, in your, very unknown to me. Maybe once in a year we'll meet in some, festival or some raising day or, founders day or something. But other than that, it's very difficult to really know who the real you is. I know your CV story. I don't know your real story. I have no idea about what your real story. I have the story you've told me in your CV. And your CV story is obviously an embellished story. All of us, our CV stories are embellished stories. Because, buddy, I did this, I was CEO, iska CEO tha, uska. But you won't talk about the time where you were betrayed, where you betrayed people, where you have, been, in your own eyes, you have not done the right thing and all of that. This only a real friend will know. Now, what happens is in the army, that is the kind of camaraderie because physically you are together. You in some places, you know each other's body odor because you're in the same bunk for 3 months or 6 months together. So you know each and every idiosyncrasy of the person. And you also learn that by and large, people are people. There will be some parts which will be good, some parts which will be bad. So there's no such thing as a good person or a bad person. Of course, there's some extreme examples, but by and large, people will have good things and bad things and all of that. So you start accepting your teammates for who they are and not for what their CV says they are.